The Velthari Empire had conquered 37 different species across 6 galaxies. Their warships were so many that they could block out the light of stars. Their generals had fought 1,000 wars and never lost a single one. When their scout ships found Earth, a small blue planet filled with short-lived creatures made of soft flesh, the High Commander Torvax laughed at his officers. "This will be a training exercise," he said. "Send the cadets. Let them practice on these primitives." It was December 14th, 2087, and the people of Earth had no idea that everything was about to change. Park Ji-soo was a captain in the Air Force. She was stationed at Osan Air Base in South Korea, and she was drinking her morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. The sound was different from any drill she had heard before. This sound was real. This sound meant danger. She dropped her coffee cup and ran. Her boots hit the ground hard as she sprinted across the base toward her fighter jet. All around her, other pilots were running too. The sky above them was turning dark, and it was not because of clouds. 12,000 alien warships appeared above Earth's cities: Seoul, New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow. Every major city looked up and saw the same thing. Giant ships made of black metal, blocking out the sun, hanging in the sky like mountains turned upside down. General Kim Do-hyun's voice came through every military radio on the planet. His voice was calm but hard like iron. "All units, this is not a drill. Earth is under attack. Show them what we are made of." The Velthari sent a message to every screen, every phone, every television on Earth. They spoke in every human language at once. "Surrender now. Kneel before the Velthari Empire or be destroyed. You have 1 hour." Park Ji-soo climbed into her F-47 Talon fighter jet. Her hands were steady. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands did not shake. She had trained for war her whole life. She never thought the enemy would come from the stars. But it did not matter. An enemy was an enemy. "All pilots ready," she said into her radio. "Let's give them our answer." 10,000 aircraft rose from every country on Earth at the same time. Fighter jets, bombers, helicopters, everything that could fly took to the sky. The Velthari watched from their warships and felt confused. They had expected fear. They had expected surrender. They had not expected this. The first battle happened over the Pacific Ocean. Park Ji-soo led her squadron against a group of Velthari attack ships. The alien ships were faster and had better weapons, but Ji-soo had something they did not have. She had spent her whole life flying in Earth's atmosphere. She knew how to use the wind, the clouds, the sun. She knew tricks that no alien computer could predict. She flew her jet straight at the enemy flagship. The other pilots thought she was crazy. The enemy thought she was desperate. But Ji-soo had seen something they had missed. The flagship had a small opening near its shield generator, a place where hot air escaped from the engines. She pushed her jet to maximum speed. Mach 6. The world became a blur around her. At the last possible second, she pressed the eject button. Her body flew out of the jet as it crashed directly into the shield generator. The explosion was beautiful. The flagship's shields failed, and 100 human missiles found their target. Ji-soo floated down on her parachute, watching the massive alien ship fall from the sky. She allowed herself a small smile. On the ground, the Velthari landed their troops in Kansas. They chose this place because it was flat and empty, perfect for establishing a base. They did not know that Kansas was filled with farmers, and these farmers had guns. Lots of guns. The first wave of Velthari soldiers marched through the wheat fields, confident in their advanced armor and weapons. They did not see the humans hiding in the tall grass. They did not hear the whispers as targets were chosen. The shooting started at sunset. It did not stop until sunrise. Not a single Velthari soldier made it out of those wheat fields. In South Korea, Dr. Lee Minji was working in her laboratory in Daejeon. She was a quantum physicist, a scientist who studied the smallest things in the universe. When the invasion started, She did not run and hide. She sat down at her computer and started working. The Velthari used a special communication system that connected directly to their brains. It was supposed to be unbreakable. Minji broke it in 47 minutes. She sent a burst of static through their network, and across the planet, thousands of Velthari soldiers grabbed their heads in pain as noise filled their minds. That should give our soldiers a few minutes, Minji said to herself. Then she started working on something bigger. By the end of the first day, Earth had lost 12 million people. Cities were burning. Families were broken. The world was covered in smoke and tears. But the Velthari had lost something more important than people. They had lost their certainty. High Commander Torvax stood on his flagship, reading the reports from the surface. His hands were shaking. This had never happened before. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen a species fight like this. "What are these creatures?" he asked his officers. None of them had an answer. The Velthari had come to Earth expecting easy prey. They had found something else entirely. They had found a species that did not know how to give up, a species that would fight with everything it had, a species that became more dangerous when it was cornered. They had found humanity. And humanity was just getting started. 6 months had passed since the aliens came. The Velthari commanders had expected Earth to fall in a few hours. They had been wrong, very wrong. Something strange was happening on Earth. Countries that had been enemies for hundreds of years were now working together. Old hatreds disappeared overnight. It did not matter if you were from America or Russia, from China or Japan, from North Korea or South Korea. There was only one thing that mattered now. You were human, and humans were under attack. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyung stood before the United Earth Defense Council. He was 63 years old, with silver hair cut short, and eyes that had seen too much death in the past 6 months. But today, his eyes were bright with hope. "We have done it," he announced. "We have figured out how their shield technology works. Our engineers have improved it. Our first starship will launch in 3 weeks." The room exploded with applause. 6 months ago, humans had never left their own solar system. Now they were building ships that could travel between stars. The ship was called the UES Defiance. It was not pretty. It was made from pieces of crashed alien vessels and human technology welded together. But it worked, and that was all that mattered. Far away from the council meeting, deep under the Rocky Mountains in America, a young woman named Choi Eun-bi was working on something important. She was only 29 years old. 1 year ago, she had been designing smartphones. Now she was building weapons to save humanity. Eun-bi had spent months studying the Velthari energy weapons. She had found something interesting. The alien shields were designed to stop focused beams of energy, like a wall stops an arrow. But what if the attack was not an arrow? What if it was a flood? She built a new kind of weapon. She called it a plasma cannon. It did not shoot a thin beam. It released a wave of superheated gas that spread out in all directions. The Velthari shields could not stop it. Nothing could stop it. The first test destroyed an entire mountain. Eun-bi looked at the smoking crater and nodded. "That should work," she said quietly. The Velthari commanders heard about the new weapon. High Commander Torvax refused to believe the reports. "Impossible," he said. "These primitives discovered electricity barely 200 years ago. They cannot build weapons better than ours." But the reports kept coming. Entire battalions of Velthari soldiers were being destroyed in seconds. Tanks that had conquered 100 worlds were melting like ice in the sun. Torvax called a meeting with his advisors. Some of them suggested retreat. They said Earth was not worth the cost. "Retreat?" Torvax shouted, his gray skin turning dark with anger. "We are the Velthari Empire. We have conquered galaxies. We do not retreat from primitive apes who still fight among themselves." He ordered more ships to Earth, the Third Fleet, the Fourth Fleet. Every ship he could spare. It was not enough. In the ruined city of Chicago, a young soldier named Kang Sumin was fighting for her life. She was 19 years old, born in Busan, South Korea. She had joined the army to pay for college. She had never expected to fight aliens. Her squad was dead, all of them, killed by Velthari soldiers who had pushed through the defensive line. Somin was alone, hiding behind a broken wall, her rifle empty. She could hear the aliens coming. Their heavy footsteps shook the ground. Their strange language filled the air, clicking sounds that meant nothing to her. Sumin looked around. Next to her was a dead Velthari soldier, and in its hands was an alien weapon, a long stick made of black metal that glowed with purple light. She had never seen this weapon before. She had no idea how it worked. She picked it up anyway. The weapon felt strange in her hands, too light, like it was made of air instead of metal. There were no buttons, no triggers that she could see. But when a Velthari soldier came around the corner, she pointed the weapon at it and thought one word: fire. The weapon understood. A beam of purple light shot out and hit the alien in the chest. It fell down and did not move. Sumin smiled. "Okay," she said. "I can work with this." She held her position for 6 hours, 6 hours of fighting, hiding, and fighting again. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found Sumin sitting on a pile of 43 dead Velthari, still holding the alien weapon. "How did you do this?" the rescue team leader asked. Sumin looked up at him. Her face was covered in dirt and alien blood. Her eyes were tired but hard. "They killed my friends," she said simply. "I got angry." Stories like Sumin's spread across Earth. A farmer in Texas who destroyed an alien tank with a homemade bomb. A group of teenagers in Tokyo who rescued 200 people from a destroyed building. An old grandmother in Mumbai who shot down an alien drone with her hunting rifle. Humanity was not just surviving. Humanity was learning. Every battle taught them something new. Every weapon they captured made them stronger. Every day that passed, the gap between human and Velthari technology grew smaller. Dr. Lee Minji, the scientist who had hacked the alien communications on the first day, made a breakthrough. She found a way to read the Velthari language. More importantly, she found a way to understand their weaknesses. "They think in straight lines," she explained to Admiral Yoon. "Their computers are powerful but predictable. They cannot handle chaos. They cannot handle surprises." She smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. "We are very good at surprises." The UES Defiance launched on schedule. It rose from Earth like a promise, like a threat, like hope made real. It was humanity's first true starship, and it carried a message to the universe. We are not afraid. We are not giving up. "We are coming." High Commander Torvax watched the launch from his flagship. For the first time in his 200-year life, he felt something cold in his chest. He finally understood what his advisors had been trying to tell him. They had not invaded a primitive world. They had awakened something terrible. 1 year had passed since the invasion began. Earth was still standing. More than standing. Earth was fighting back. The UES Defiance was no longer alone in the stars. Humanity had built 200 warships in 12 months. Every ship was a mix of human courage and stolen alien technology. Human engineers had not just copied the Velthari designs, they had made them better. Commander Park Jisoo stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance. It was the newest and most powerful ship in the human fleet. Jisoo had come a long way from the pilot who crashed her jet into an alien flagship. Now she commanded a vessel that could fight a dozen Velthari ships at once. "Set course for Kepler 442, she ordered. Her voice was calm and steady. "We are going to their supply station. It is time to bring this war to their home." The crew moved quickly, pressing buttons, checking systems. They were a mix of people from every country on Earth. American, Korean, Russian, Brazilian, Nigerian. It did not matter anymore. They were all humans now. Lieutenant Han Jung-woo was in the hangar, preparing his fighter squadron. 1 year ago, he had been flying passenger planes from Seoul to Los Angeles. Now he flew hybrid fighters, human frames with Velthari engines, the fastest ships in 2 galaxies. He gathered his pilots around him. They were young, most of them under 30. But their eyes were old. War did that to people. "Listen to me," Jung-woo said. "The Velthari have never been invaded. In 10,000 years, no one has ever attacked their territory. They do not know what it feels like to fight for survival." He looked at each pilot one by one. "We do. That is our advantage. That is why we will win." The human fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. 200 ships disappeared from Earth's sky and reappeared at Kepler 442, a star system 400 light-years away. The journey took less than an hour. The Velthari had 50 warships guarding their supply station. It was a massive structure floating in space, filled with food, weapons, and fuel for their invasion fleet. Losing it would hurt them badly. The Velthari commander saw the human fleet and smiled. 50 ships against 200 might seem bad, but Velthari ships were larger and more powerful. He expected the humans to be careful, to test his defenses, to look for weaknesses before attacking. He was wrong. "All ships, full attack," Commander Park ordered. "Maximum speed. Do not slow down for anything." The human fleet charged straight at the enemy. No tricks, no careful planning, just pure aggression. The Velthari commander could not believe what he was seeing. "They are insane," he said to his officers. "This is suicide." But it was not suicide. It was strategy. The Velthari were excellent at fighting careful, organized battles. Their computers could predict enemy movements and plan perfect responses. But they could not predict insanity. They could not plan for an enemy that attacked without fear. The human ships smashed through the Velthari formation like a hammer through glass. Plasma cannons fired in all directions. Missiles flew everywhere. Fighters danced between the larger ships, causing chaos and confusion. Lieutenant Jung-woo led his squadron against a Velthari carrier. The enemy ship was 10 times larger than his fighter, bristling with weapons. He did not care. "Stay close to me," he told his pilots. "Hit them fast, hit them hard, and do not stop moving." They flew so close to the carrier that its own weapons could not target them. They found the weak points in its armor and filled them with missiles. The carrier exploded, taking 2 smaller ships with it. The battle lasted 19 hours. When it was over, the supply station was destroyed. 23 Velthari ships were scrap metal, and 3 enemy vessels had been captured intact. The humans had lost 31 ships and over 2,000 people, but they had won. Commander Park looked at the burning wreckage of the supply station. She thought about everyone who had died to make this moment possible. She made a silent promise to them. "This is just the beginning," she said. Back on Earth, Dr. Lee Minji had finished her greatest creation. She called it the wake-up call. It was a computer virus, but not like any virus humans had made before. It was designed specifically for Velthari systems. It would spread through their entire network, reaching every ship, every station, every planet in their empire. The virus would not destroy anything. It would just deliver a message. "Once this is inside their systems," Minji explained to Admiral Yoon, "every Velthari in the Empire will receive the same message in their own language at the same time." She showed him the message on her screen. Translated into English, it read, "You came to our home. You killed our people. You thought we would kneel. You were wrong. Now we are coming for you. We will not stop until every human life you took has been paid for. Sleep well, if you can." Admiral Yoon read the message twice. Then he nodded slowly. "Send it," he said. The virus spread faster than anyone expected. Within 3 days, every Velthari in 6 galaxies had received the message. It appeared on their screens when they woke up. It played in their communication devices. It was even carved into the walls of their most sacred temples by hacked maintenance robots. High Commander Torvax woke up to find the message glowing on the ceiling of his bedroom. He did not sleep well that night, or the next night, or any night after. The humans were no longer just defending their planet. They were hunting, and the Velthari were no longer the predators. They were the prey. 3 years had passed since the Velthari first came to Earth. Everything had changed. The hunters had become the hunted. The Velthari Empire was falling apart. For 10,000 years they had conquered every species they met. They had never known fear. Now fear was all they knew. Human fleets appeared without warning. They would strike a Velthari base, destroy everything, and disappear before help could arrive. They moved like ghosts, impossible to predict, impossible to stop. The Velthari soldiers who had once laughed at humans now had nightmares about them. Stories spread through the Empire about the small creatures from the blue planet. They said humans could survive anything. They said humans learned to use any weapon in minutes. They said humans never, ever gave up. The stories were all true. Sergeant Major Bae Sunhee led a special team deep into Velthari space. Her mission was simple but dangerous. She had to capture a high-ranking enemy officer and bring him back alive. Sunhee was 34 years old. Before the war, she had been a police officer in Seoul. Now she was one of the deadliest soldiers in the human military. She had a scar across her face from a Velthari blade. She wore it with pride. Her team had only 12 soldiers. They were going to attack a base with over 2,000 Velthari guards. Anyone else would have called it impossible. Sunhee called it Tuesday. They landed on the planet at night. The Velthari had heat sensors, motion detectors, and cameras everywhere. Sunhee's team avoided them all. They had studied the base for months. They knew every guard rotation, every blind spot, every weakness. They reached the general's quarters without being seen. The door was locked with an alien security system. One of Sunhee's soldiers, a young woman named Kim Yuna, cracked it in 30 seconds. General Vexus was sleeping when the humans entered his room. He woke up to find 12 dark figures standing around his bed, their weapons pointed at his head. "Make a sound and you die," Sunhee said in perfect Velthari. She had learned the language in 6 months. "Come with us quietly and you might live." Vexus was too shocked to fight. Humans here in the heart of the Empire? It was impossible. But the weapon pressed against his head felt very real. They were halfway to their ship when the alarm finally sounded. 2,000 Velthari soldiers woke up and grabbed their weapons. They flooded into the corridors, searching for the intruders. Sunhee smiled. "Now the fun begins," she said. The next 3 hours were chaos. Sunhee's team moved through the base like water through cracks. They never stayed in one place. They never let the enemy surround them. Every time the Velthari thought they had the humans trapped, the humans would appear somewhere else. They fought through hallways and across rooftops. They used Velthari weapons, human weapons, and sometimes just their hands. 2 of Sunhee's soldiers died, brave people who gave their lives so the mission could succeed. But they got out. 12 went in, 10 came out, and they brought General Vexus with them. The interrogation took 3 days. Vexus tried to resist at first. Then he tried to lie. Neither worked. Human interrogators had become very good at their jobs. In the end, Vexus told them everything: the location of the Velthari homeworld, the layout of their planetary defenses, the weaknesses in their shield grid. Everything. "You cannot attack Velthos Prime," Vexus said, his voice tired and broken. "No species has ever reached our homeworld. We have 100,000 ships in orbit. We have weapons that can destroy moons. You would need 1,000,000 soldiers just to land on the surface." Admiral Yoon Tae-hyung sat across from the general. The old admiral had gray hair and kind eyes, but his smile was cold. "We have studied your defenses," Yoon said. "Your engineers built them to stop enemies who fight like you do. Careful, organized, predictable." He leaned forward. "We are none of those things." The planning took 6 months. Every detail was checked 100 times. Every backup plan had a backup plan. Dr. Choi Yoonbi, the weapons engineer, designed new bombs that could break through the strongest shields. Dr. Lee Minji created electronic attacks that would blind the Velthari sensors for precious minutes. Commander Park Ji-soo would lead the space assault. Sergeant Major Bae Soon-hai would command the ground forces. Lieutenant Kang Soo-min, the young soldier who had held Chicago with an alien weapon, was now a captain. She would lead the first wave of troops onto the enemy planet. "Scared?" Soon-hee asked her the night before they left. Soo-min shook her head. "They killed 12 million of us on the first day. I have been waiting 3 years for this. 2,000 human warships gathered near Earth. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever built. Soldiers from every country stood ready. They all knew they might not come back. They went anyway. Admiral Yoon spoke to them all through the ship's speakers. 3 years ago, they came to our home. They demanded we kneel. They called us primitives. They called us weak. They thought we would break." His voice grew stronger. "Tomorrow, we show them what happens when you attack humanity. Tomorrow, we end this war." The fleet activated their faster-than-light engines. 2,000 ships vanished from Earth's sky. They were going to Velthos Prime. They were going to win. Velthos Prime had never been attacked. In 10,000 years of empire, no enemy had ever seen the Velthari homeworld with weapons in hand. The planet was sacred. The planet was safe. The planet was about to learn the truth about humanity. 2,000 human warships appeared in the sky without warning. Dr. Lee Minji's electronic attack had worked perfectly. The Velthari sensors showed nothing until the human fleet was already in orbit, already firing. High Commander Torvax was eating breakfast when the explosions started. He ran to the command center, still holding his food, and stared at the screens in disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. The same word he had said 3 years ago when this nightmare began. He still had not learned. Commander Park Ji-soo stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching the battle unfold. Velthari defense stations were exploding like fireworks. Enemy ships were scrambling to respond, but they were confused, disorganized, afraid. "Target their command centers first," Park ordered. "If they cannot talk to each other, they cannot coordinate. Hit them hard and keep hitting them." Lieutenant Han Jung-woo led his fighter squadron into the chaos. There were so many enemy ships that the sky looked solid with metal. He did not care. He had been fighting for 3 years. He had lost friends, lost wingmen, lost pieces of himself. Today, he would make it all mean something. "Stay together," he told his pilots. "Watch each other's backs. We finish this today." They dove into the Velthari formation, firing at everything that moved. Jung-woo counted his kills without thinking about it. 10, 20, 30, 47, by the time the orbital defenses fell. On the surface of Velthos Prime, the capital city had never heard the sound of war. Its citizens had lived their entire lives in peace, protected by an empire that conquered all threats before they could reach home. Now dropships were falling from the sky like metal rain. Captain Kang Soo-min was in the first ship to touch the ground. She was 23 years old now, a veteran of 100 battles. The scared girl who had held Chicago with a stolen weapon was gone. In her place was a warrior. "Move fast," she told her soldiers as the dropship door opened. "The longer we take, the more people die. Let us end this quickly." They poured into the streets of the Velthari capital. The alien civilians ran screaming. The soldiers tried to form defense lines, but they had never trained for this. They had never imagined they would need to. Sergeant Major Bae Soon-hee landed with the second wave. Her target was the Imperial Palace, where the Veltari leaders were hiding. It was the most heavily defended building on the planet. "Walls!" Sunhai said, looking at the massive structure. "They think walls will save them." She turned to her soldiers. "Show them what humans do to walls." The battle for the palace lasted 4 hours. Sunhai's forces fought through gardens filled with strange plants, hallways covered in alien art, rooms that had not seen violence in 1,000 years. They left destruction behind them, but they also left orders. Do not harm civilians. Do not destroy anything you do not have to. We are not like them. Captain Suman led the charge into the throne room. The doors were 3 stories tall, made of some kind of golden metal. They were supposed to be unbreakable. Suman's team broke them in 5 minutes. High Commander Torvax stood before his throne, surrounded by his personal guards. He was old, older than any human could imagine, but he stood straight and proud. He had never surrendered in his 200 years of life. He would not start now. "You cannot win," he said as the humans entered. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "Even if you take this world, our empire spans 6 galaxies. You are one small species. You cannot fight everyone." Suman walked toward him, her weapon raised. She thought about the first day of the invasion. She thought about her squad, dead in Chicago. She thought about the 12 million humans who died before the sun set on that terrible day. "We are not here to conquer your empire," she said. "We are here to teach you a lesson." She did not shoot him. She did not need to. The lesson was already learned. 3 hours later, the Veltari Empire surrendered. The treaty was signed on Earth, in front of the rebuilt United Nations building. Representatives from every human nation watched as the Veltari leaders agreed to peace. They would remove all military forces from 500 light-years around Earth. They would pay for the damage they had caused. They would never threaten humanity again. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyung gave the final speech. 4 years ago, we looked at the stars and wondered if we were alone. We got our answer in the worst possible way. They came to destroy us. They saw a small world of fragile creatures and thought we would be easy." He paused, looking at the crowd of humans who had survived, who had fought, who had won. "They did not understand us. We do not give up. We do not break. When something threatens our home, we do not just defend ourselves. We make sure that threat never rises again." Commander Park Ji-soo stood in the crowd, watching quietly. She thought about all the pilots who had died under her command. She thought about the friends she had lost, the battles she had fought, the long nights when she wondered if humanity would survive. Dr. Lee Min-ji was already planning the next phase. Not war this time, but exploration. Humanity would spread across the stars, not as conquerors, but as explorers. Dr. Choi Yun-bi was designing new technology, ships that could travel faster. Machines that could turn dead worlds into living ones. Tools to build a future. An old Veltari observer watched the ceremony from the back of the crowd. He was a historian, sent to record this moment for the Galactic Archives. He wrote his final report that night. "We made a terrible mistake. We measured humanity's technology and found it primitive. We measured their resources and found them limited. We measured their bodies and found them weak. We did not measure the thing that truly matters, their spirit. Humanity does not know how to surrender. They do not know how to accept defeat. When you push them, they do not break. They become harder, stronger, more dangerous. Let this report serve as a warning to all species in the galaxy. Do not attack Earth. Do not threaten humanity. They are small and short-lived, yes. But they are also the most terrifying species the galaxy has ever seen. Leave them alone." Humanity looked up at the stars with new eyes. For thousands of years they had wondered what was out there. Now they knew. And now they were ready to meet it. The first human colony ship launched 1 year later. It carried 10,000 people to a new world, a world they would make their own. The ship's name was carved in letters 10 feet tall on its hull. UES New Dawn. On the side of the ship, someone had painted a message. It was not official. No one knew who had done it. But everyone agreed it was perfect. They called us primitive. They called us prey. They were wrong. Humanity had been tested. Humanity had survived. And now, humanity would take the stars. This was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning.